Hello, guys. Welcome to the eighth episode of Polarising Dialogue. It's a series which I launched many weeks back. We're sorry that the videos have not been very consistent lately. Sakhi has been going on multiple vacations without asking for my approval. She has been going on multiple vacations, and I personally have been busy with obligations of my own. We're back, and the topic for today is it's quite an interesting one. It's quite common nowadays. It's a topic that I feel like everyone would relate to in this day and age, and the topic is addiction. And so I would just like to start off with what I think addiction is. So addiction, according to me, I feel like it's having little or no control over some kind of thing, a particular mode of behavior, which typically results in impaired function. So this can be like in overindulgence in alcohol, overindulgence in anything. It doesn't need to be very extreme like alcohol or social media or things which are very mainstream nowadays. It can be as little as, I don't know, addiction to you have addiction to meditate every day, or you cannot function regularly. So that can be an addiction as well. There are things which seem healthy but impair function as well, which are addictions as well. The reason why I feel like addictions are so prevalent nowadays, and especially I'll just get into the meat of it, like social media addiction, which is very common nowadays. The reason why social media addiction is so common, and you just can see it literally everywhere you go, from any age range. It like doesn't have any kind of age range. The reason is the kind of pleasure that you get from indulging in social media, that instant gratification that you get from indulging in social media, does not compare to any other activities that you indulge in every day. So I don't know, reading a book will not compare in any way, shape, or form to the kind of pleasure that you get from social media. The reason is social media is completely solely designed to addict you, and that doesn't make social media like a very evil platform per se. I mean, you can come to that conclusion if you want, but at the end of the day, social media and all these other companies are just looking to get more people onto their platform, and they won't hesitate looking past moral things or moral grounds uh, in hopes of making more profit. And I feel like when it comes to Instagram and when it comes to social media in general, I feel like it's more of a responsibility towards the people to not be addicted so much. But I feel like, I'm going down a rabbit hole now when it comes to social media. We'll stick to addiction on a general, and we can go to deeper topics later on. Like, okay, what do you think about that, Sakhi? I feel like I went on a whole rant there.
Yeah, so I feel like with addiction, we're basically looking at people looking for instant gratification, instant boost of dopamine levels, right? So, yeah, reading a book and doing something that will give you long-term benefits. You cannot get addicted to something that will benefit you in the long term because you're not getting that pleasure right now. So, you engage in something that gives you instant bursts. And social media and gaming, alcohol, pornography. It can be literally anything. So I feel like there are two divisions to this. There is substance use addiction and there is behavioral addiction, right? Substance use, if you want to talk about, it can be smoking or alcohol or cocaine or vape. I think vaping is like has become a thing, and we and weed, obviously weed's there.
Weed is there, but vaping is just, oh my god, man. Like, okay,
I know
vaping. The
people,
reason
man.
why vape was invented, it was for smokers
Okay.
to quit smoking. So vape acted as this kind of barrier or this kind of a medium for smokers to get their nicotine levels lower. But what started happening was students you started using that as a kind of bridge towards smoking. This completely
Mm,
unintended effects of it. And I
completely.
mean, God forbid the people who completely stand up for vaping and say that vaping is not as bad as smoking or whatever. But it's like, stop coping, man. Like, come on. Like, okay, go ahead. You are going on an
Yes,
interesting rant there.
extreme amounts of consumption of anything is bad for your health, apparently. So yeah, that's what it is. And I just want to start off with a personal question to you. I mean, I don't think you'd have any addictions right now, but in the past, have you had any addictions and how did you
Absolutely.
cope? You did?
I had a lot of addictions, and addictions personally is just a very, it's a very, it hits close to home. addictions, video games in general. I mean, video games in specific, because video games was something that personally I do believe it has ruined my life for a long time.
Hmm.
But it did give me the ability to speak English very well. So I'm kind of grateful to video
How?
games for that. I used to play with people from Singapore and other
Okay.
countries. Obviously, you cannot converse with them in fucking Tamil or whatever. You have to speak English.
That's the
So
side. I feel like I couldn't have thought of that. Like you improved your communication skills because of game.
yeah, English got completely improved, but the cost at which I improved my English was my entire social life collapsing, actual IRL life collapsing, and there's this very popular notion of gamers having to touch grass. I was completely against it, but I realized when I actually started touching grass that we gamers really need to touch grass, and that's not to mention that everyone who plays games are just addicted. But I feel like I would make this bold statement that most of the people who indulge in online games in specific, competitive games, it is more of an addictive process than you think.
Hmm.
And coming back to just your point about books, reading books and pleasurable activities, like I feel like positive activities like books, reading books, and meditative practices can also be addicting. Very
Hmm.
interesting. This is very interesting, but I actually observed this over the past month. It's actually addicting in a very tricky way, in the sense that if at all you okay you allot meditation at the start of the day, right? And every single day you start your day off by meditating. What happens in a day if circumstances align and you cannot meditate? I actually found that due to my compulsive thought of having to meditate every single day, the days that I couldn't meditate, the opposite effect was happening. So I couldn't meditate. So I was like in my head so much. Like I could see so much of my abilities and skills being impaired. So I was like, what is this happening? So and then I watched this guy, Alex Hermosi. He's a very popular dude now. Nowadays, he talks a lot about entrepreneurship and stuff like that. He actually said this about morning routines, which was very controversial, I feel like. But he said that morning routines can be very helpful for someone who's just getting into improving their lives and all. Like, don't get me wrong, it is very helpful. But you should not bank everything on just the morning routine. You shouldn't become attached to the morning routine. For example, you shouldn't be like, if at all in a day you cannot do the usual things that you do every single day, your ability to function should not change. If it changes, probably you should take a look at that. And I've actually struggled with that a little bit over the last month, but I feel like I've, I've actually started recovering. Recovering is a bad word. Fixing the problem would be a better word. I feel like I just stopped meditating. Now I just look at the wall for 10 minutes. I just look at the wall for 10 minutes. This is like your brain automatically processes everything. And of
Hmm.
course, the question you asked about me having dealt with addictions and all, again, Instagram addict. What a surprise. I mean, I used to be addicted to Instagram for the longest time possible.
Hmm.
And yeah, the way I overcame it was just taking a very long-term approach. People just don't want to take long-term approaches anymore because that screws with their ego. When they find out that they are genuinely not capable of quitting something instantly, it kind of fucks with their ego. But like, think about it. You have been doing a certain activity, or for example, now Instagram, you've been scrolling through Instagram for like years, 3 4 years. You want to quit it like this? Like, what is this? Like, your brain has been wired and your
Hmm.
brain has changed completely, and you just want your brain to revert back to how it was before you used Instagram in like a snap of the fingers. I don't think your brain works like that. But then again, I feel like I'm going off topic again as usual. But yeah, I've been addicted to a lot of things. What about you? Like, I assume you've been addicted to doom scrolling because of your amazing YouTube video again. I watched.
I don't think I got many views on that, so people wouldn't know the context. But no, that
Okay.
that was that was just a joke. I have not had any addictions. Yeah. So if at all, I feel like I would be more vulnerable to behavioral addictions than substance use because uh, it's like I was very young when I decided that I would not engage in consuming any kind of substance, which I feel like I will stick to because I don't even when I look at somebody who is doing some sort of thing, even for engaging in a social activity or if I'm in a social gathering, I don't think it would even I would even bring it in my consideration that at least to feel like I want to be a part of this group I would drink. My brother is 25 and he has abstained from consuming anything that is intoxicating, right? So that this was also his choice that he made very early on, and that's what I learned from him. And I asked him that, do you think you're missing out on stuff? He said that not really, because I have seen people around me who's been doing this completely and it affects them so much. And even if it doesn't, you're not missing out on something that's so important to you. Okay, it gives you pleasure, but for a long time I used to believe that, you live one life, you got to try everything at least once. So this is something I believe in to a great extent even now. But lately I told my dad about this, and he said that that's just a misconception that people have. You don't have to try everything. There is another activity that would give you same, if not more pleasure, right? So you engage in something like that, and you're really not missing out on it. So if you decide to, especially if you think you're more vulnerable to a certain thing than other people are, you should completely stop doing it. Yeah, what are your thoughts on
So
that? Do you believe in that you live only once kind of ideology?
I actually told that to a few people, and I've had fights over it. Uh, I don't know.
What is
I feel like yeah, I was like, I don't know. When I grow up, when I be successful and all, I just want to try everything just once. I've had I've had a lot of backlash on that when I told people that, not my family. So I think already know who I'm referring to. But okay, the thing about what your dad said, I 100% agree with the approach. I
Hmm.
do think there are other things which would give you pleasure, but I actually disagree with him saying that there will be other things which give you higher pleasure. I agree with this approach, but higher pleasure is very intoxicating. It is very dangerous, which is what drugs and all the other things that it gives you. Higher
Hmm.
pleasure is not exactly what we need. Higher pleasure, what higher pleasure does to our dopamine. So if our dopamine levels are in baselines, if it's just normal, high spikes in dopamine, which naturally result in very abnormal levels of pleasure,
Hmm.
when it comes back down, it does not come back to baseline. It dips below baseline, which is why hangovers are a very real thing. People
Hmm.
drink out of their minds in the mornings. You're just completely out of it for the entire day, I think, even for the entire day. And yeah, about your entire rant, I actually was very curious. What you said, you were more susceptible to behavioral addictions. What do you mean by that?
Substance use, will not be, because I'm guessing. Although I have decided I will not engage in something like it, but even if I do, I feel like I'll try it once, and I don't really think I would like it. So with even cold drinks, I don't like fizzy drinks. So alcohol, there is no way. I wouldn't like the taste, and smoking is
Right,
not
yeah,
something
but
that even fascinates me.
yeah,
Even
yeah, but what do you mean by behavioral addictions?
behavioral, as in, I'll tell you, social media addiction would come under behavioral. I think I'm most susceptible to that only.
Everyone are.
Yeah, and people are addicted to what? Sex, pornography. Uh, I was gonna say something. Exercising also. You were saying about these
Yeah, yeah,
positive
yeah.
addictions, right? So exercising also, because people have disorders. And
Absolutely. Yeah, I
yeah,
understand. Yeah,
eating disorders
agree.
as well. So yeah, these are behavioral. Anything that does not involve in consuming something like that, it's behavioral. So yeah,
Actually, when it comes to
obsessive.
exercising, it's a very real topic, because exercising, when it comes to guys, most guys are just looking to build muscle, right? But
Hmm.
it's a very slippery slope, in the sense, when you have the body that you dreamed of. For example, if you just shot for a goal, you reach the goal. It's a very slippery slope, in the sense that people are just not satisfied with what they get, so they keep chasing higher and higher goals and better and better bodies. But after a certain point, you just have to inject yourself with foreign substances to meet the kind of goals that you have
Steroids.
set out for yourself. Yeah, steroids, which is, when you mention steroids like this, right, to a normal person who hasn't gone to the gym yet, it's like, yeah, but steroids, I am not the kind of person who will indulge in steroids and all. But when a person actually goes down this rabbit hole of this getting constantly better in the gym and all, that is when their development actually comes with the cost of their own well-being. Like, why do you even go to the gym? It's to okay it's to it's to get attain a nice body. Okay, it's to attain girls or whatever. I mean, I do think that most of the guys, and I think, yeah, most of the guys, even unconsciously, they'll think about attracting girls as well, attracting girls with going to the gym. All that is fine. But why would you go after a certain point, sacrificing your own personal well being in order to attain aesthetic mastery? Like you're not even going for competitions at that point. Like what's the except I don't know, social acceptance, except social just social feedback that you'll get. Other than that, there's like no upside to it. So I don't like understand the entire steroid use that I am personally surrounded with, sadly. And yeah, about steroids, I'd actually segue into another point that you mentioned. I do think that a lot of people just set out with their lives. A lot of people who get addicted to substances, they don't actually believe they'll get addicted to substances per se. Most of them would even claim what you have claimed, that they'll completely stay away from substances. But it's the kind of people that it's the kind of people who will say the exact same things we have said. I'm just going to try it once and just going to leave it. But when they try it once, that the kind of intoxicating feeling that they'll get you cannot get that naturally. So they'll get addicted to that feeling, which in turn makes them addicted to the substance. So for any person who is just looking to, I don't know, who's personally like me, who wants to try everything once, be very careful of your willpower and do not overestimate your willpower. Do not overestimate yourself. You are not, your brain, however big of a G, however alpha of a person you are, your brain is not above addictions. If at all, you keep consuming alcohol for 6 months, you cannot quit like this. And that's not to take away any kind of alpha thing from you. Like as big of an alpha you are, like you're not greater or you're not better than your brain. You cannot like tweak your brain like 2 or 3 days. So it's like when it comes to your brother, I feel like your brother is a very rare person, and very rare, because peer pressure is a very real thing. I've seen friends from school who have been amazing, like proper, I don't know, proper. I cannot even get the proper word. They'll listen to their parents, good people to be around, genuinely positive people. I've seen them completely flip in 1 year because of bad peer pressure. And they completely flip into, like, I don't know, smoking an entire packet of cigarettes in a day or something like that. When you hear things like this, and you hear things like this, when it comes to random people, it's fine. But when it comes to your friends, you kind of feel hopeless and helpless. You kind of feel like they got out of your hands, which is where I feel like it's a very important line to draw for yourself. And for anyone who's watching this video and you have some kind of person who's struggling through addictions, it's a very slippery slope for you as someone who's trying to help that person, because it's very hard. And I don't know, it's very hard on you mentally as well. So I feel like more than focusing on the other person, you have to focus on yourself if you're going to actually commit to helping the other person. And personally, where I am right now in my life, I wouldn't commit. Personally, I don't think I'm strong enough to help anyone going through substance abuse or whatever, unless they pay me a very high amount, because it's a very hard thing to actually help people with. And I don't even think I have the expertise to help people going through it. Because addictions, as opposed to other things, you cannot shame them out of it. So my strategy with helping people, or at least helping guys, is shaming them in a very controlled manner. Like shaming them not in a very extreme manner that they get completely bolstered and they get completely depressed. I'll shame them in a way where I trigger their ego inside them in a very healthy way. Not too much, not too little. I have this friend who every time he used to come to the gym consistently for 3 to 4 months. Now he isn't consistent so much. Whenever he gives me excuses, even though I know he's consistent, but I know he's getting complacent, I'll be like, yeah, and so what? Road to 100 kilos. Road to 100 kilos, you're getting fat as fuck. 100%, you go, girl, even though he's a guy. This is what I use with guys to improve themselves, right? Like positive provocation. Controlled provocation. This sarcastic provocation, whatever. But this kind of thing that doesn't work with people with substance use. Substance use is way more serious, I feel like, because it's way more. Yeah, it's way more sensitive. And yeah, substance use, I feel like it requires a lot more willpower than just losing weight or whatever. So the person has to properly commit to improving their lives, which is a very hard thing, by the way. Like if you've truly been in the depths, like completely out of it, completely rock bottom, when you've hit rock bottom, taking a conscious decision to improve your life, it's a very daunting decision. Like actually think about it. You have to put actual efforts, real efforts on top of how you're feeling right now. Which is why people who've hit rock bottom, and I feel like I have so much respect for people who completely hit rock bottom and they completely come back. It's like the kind of willpower that requires from that's asked from them to completely make that transition. it's that much more heroic because honestly, I don't know if people watching this, or I don't know if you have ever hit rock bottom. I feel like I've been very close to it, and I can tell you for a fact that being negative honestly felt more easier than being positive. Like, what's the point with anything? Like, literally everywhere I go is just negative situations. God is just dealing me a bad hand. Like, what's the point with anything? It's very easy, but it's very important for people to not lose faith. Again, a very overused word, but honestly, I feel like there was this one sentence that I read from Jordan Peterson's book today. I don't know if I remember properly. It was something about faith. There were people. There was this particular person who was absolutely not that good looking. Like, he's very honest. There was this one client of his, not that very good looking, was a female, 30 years old, no family, no friends, no boyfriend, nothing. Is has She had Down syndrome as well. I think she was dropped out of some kind of psychiatric wards in 1980 or something. So basically, the gist of it is, you know how people talk about the 20/80 rule. This was 595, and she was on the bottom 1% of people on the planet, and she was still when she got discharged, she came back to the psychiatric clinic looking for people to help, looking for people who are worse than her to help. Like, honestly, these kinds of things, when you actually read about it, it actually puts you to tears because, I mean, think about it. Like, actually put yourself in the situation of that person. Would you do the same? Like, I wouldn't. I put my hand up and I'll say I wouldn't, because I don't think I have that good of a heart. I don't think I have that good of a heart personally, and I don't even think I'm that strong. Like, completely have all the odds go against me and still be able to look at the positives. That is
Very
so priceless and absolutely difficult. So when that person can do it, that just shows you the power of faith.
Mm.
And I've heard faith for the longest time. Everyone has heard faith, but it's very important to know what faith means, or even more important, to know how faith feels. Even when everything's against you, feel faith. Consciously look for the kind of people around you, the positive people around you, or even the negative people. Look at the kind of little positive things that you do, that they do. If you truly look at the positive, if you truly search for the positive things in the world, you can find them. Truly search. But again, that's a very difficult thing to do in itself, just truly searching for positive things when your life is going completely downhill. Like, what's the point with anything? But yeah, I mean, yeah, again, a whole rant there. Anything that you have to add?
I feel
My
like
God.
things like gratitude and faith, these sound so abstract to people that people wonder, okay, I'm supposed to bring this in me. How do I do it? And if you have positive people around you, if people, show you a different perspective to things, because you've been constantly thinking of the other, so with the other point of view, right? So if you have people who constantly tell you that, no, look at this side of, okay, you have a problem, look at this side of it, maybe it's good for you, maybe it'll be helpful for you in the long term. So once you start surrounding yourself with people like that, you will develop that mindset, and it helps a lot more than than the stuff that you can do for yourself to get that mindset. And with I feel like with addiction, genetics also play a very big role, because I have a friend. She said that I would probably never even try smoking because my dad's a chain smoker, and I definitely know that I am more vulnerable to it than any other person. So when you have a blood relative who's addicted to something, I read this online as well. So yeah, that is also a very big reason. And I was gonna say something at the end. You touched
Yeah,
upon
that's
something.
fine. I mean,
Yeah.
I personally think that people who are personally, this is a personal opinion of mine. Again, the world we live in, I'm going to get heat for this as well, sadly. I personally believe people from 18 to 25, they should completely stay away from any and every kind of drug. Because till, I don't know, I feel like till 23, 24, 25, your brain is just developing, and your brain
Mm.
is not used to this kinds of foreign substance and the kind of powerful effects that it'll have on your brain. So if you're going to try it, or if you're going to do it, just I don't know, wait till you're a little bit older, a little bit more strong, with a little more willpower. Even that I wouldn't recommend. But people who are 18 and they indulge in these kinds of behavior, it's a death wish. It's a death wish, because the kind of behaviors and the kind of things that we include in our personality, include in our psyche when we are growing up, during our adolescent, it's going to be that much more harder to deal with that as opposed to the other things, because your brain is still developing. when your brain is still developing, when you indulge in all these things, your brain will get attached to all these things. And it just gets that much more difficult to deal with it. So I don't understand why people, again, it's just, I personally don't understand, man. Like, yeah,
Ironic because see, we're at a stage. This also my friend told me that we're 18 to 25 or even 28, 29. We are at this stage where we are standing in the middle of, two pit holes, basically. So a good pit hole, a bad pit hole. So there's career and hard work and all of these good things that you can surround yourself with, get into that one. And then there's the other, all the bad stuff that
absolutely.
would completely ruin your life. And you're standing right in the middle. You can fall either side, depends on who you surround yourself with, what you consume, right? And that will determine what the next 20, 25 years of your life will look like, or even the rest of your life. And it hit me because, when you're 30, 35, I feel like the pace of your life, the pace of your growth, it slows down a bit. But when you're in this stage where 18 and 20, 18 to 28, it's just the pace of your growth, it's very, very fast. It depends on
Hmm.
how fast you want to keep it, if that makes sense. I didn't put it perfectly well but
Hmm.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
we
I feel.
understand the gist of it.
Yeah.
So I understand completely. So 18 to 28, the problem with people is they're standing cutthroat in the middle, right? As you said, people just think they're kind of some kind of magicians who are absolutely immune from falling down the bad path. This is why people are just absolutely arrogant. They overestimate they completely overestimate their their kind of willpower, and underestimate the effects of drugs and underestimate the effects of substance use and whatever. And like you said, 35, 37, that's when your growth kind of slows down. I think when growth slows down, every single thing that you did, all the negative effects of it completely catch up to you. When growth slows down, all the negative effects of everything that you've been doing, when it catches up to you, good luck dealing with it. That's how people fall into all of this midlife crises and all of this midlife depression or all of this bullshit. I mean, if you looked after your life better, 10 years or 5 years back, you wouldn't be in this place.
That's
And
true.
also, when it comes to peer pressure, I personally, like, again, do not think that people understand the true, genuine danger of peer pressure and the power of peer pressure. Like, just, okay, I don't smoke, but I personally wouldn't put myself around a person who smokes also.
Right.
Even though I'm absolutely confident that I won't smoke, I just don't want to be around someone who smokes. Even if he's a complete genius, even if he's a complete killer, I don't want to be around him, because it's just, as much as you want to trust yourself and as much as you want to trust your willpower, as much as you think you are so strong, you're not going to be so strong when the person keeps talking about the same damn thing for 2 3 months. Your brain is automatically going to start changing slowly, and the worst part of it is you are not even going to realize that your brain is changing. It's like a frog. It's like the frog in boiling water. I don't know if you know that reference. So when you put the frog in normal water, the frog won't know. When you put the frog in normal water and you start increasing the heat slowly, the frog won't realize how hot the water is actually getting until an external frog actually jumps in the water, and it's like, oh my god, this is fucking hot as fuck. And I feel like that
Yes.
external frog has to be the friends of people who are sitting in the boiling water. But
Hmm.
again, friends, when it comes to just people who I see personally, I feel like I feel like there are two extremes. There are people who are completely against smoking, and there are people who think that not smoking is not cool. Smoking makes you completely cool or whatever, makes you alpha or whatever. And I think, as much as I want to support Andrew Tate, as much as I want to support him, his thing of having this cigar and portraying, I don't know,
Tourism.
trade boss behavior, that was completely made people think that having cigars and all of this just makes you cool. Bro, health is cool. Being healthy is cool. Fucking cancer is not cool, man. Like, yeah, I mean, as much as I support Andrew Tate, all these things and all I don't condone,
Hmm.
right? And yeah, I mean, when it comes, again, I feel like I'm just going on a tangent at this point. I can just go on talking about all this very emotionally, man, because I just have a lot of people who I I kind of even shy away from helping these people because I frankly don't want to deal with it. It's just painful.
Hmm.
Like, you have these people who will tell you, I'm going to completely get my life. I'm going to completely get my life in order from next week. Next week, you see them standing there with two fucking cigarettes in their hands. Like, what the fuck, bro? Like, okay, it's not even, don't even feel angry. I just feel sad. Just, you're not
Hmm.
able to follow up on your word, Murray.
Correct, correct. And
Fuck
about
that.
about these things, I feel like a lot of these things about addiction and peer pressure and all of this, I will be able to talk about it a lot more once I get to college, because I have been in my bubble for way too long and I don't know
Hmm.
the power of peer pressure, although I have heard people saying, and I have an idea. And I was talking to a dude from a college that I was applying to, and he said that be very mindful of the kind of people you surround yourself with, because I made that mistake. I wasn't very conscious when I came here, and that has changed my mind a little bit towards something that I didn't think I would get into. That's what he said. So you don't realize what sort of pitholes you get into unconsciously, subconsciously. So
When it
definitely.
comes to addictions,
Mm,
there is also this. I don't know if you call this addiction, but rather a very negative aspect of peer pressure. This aspect of peer pressure where girls just get forced into trying new things that they absolutely don't want to try.
mm,
Like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen a lot of girls where they're like wearing proper clothes and all. When they see their friends wearing short clothes, getting all their attention, and when they see them flaunting all of this and all, they just get dragged into this kind of life that you really don't want to get into. I mean, obviously, it might seem amazing and it might seem flashy from a third person's perspective. When you actually deal with it, you'd actually completely start regretting it, like truly regretting it, truly. And regret is a very powerful emotion. Like, I feel like these kinds of people who get dragged into these kinds of girls in specific, when it comes to just this situation, these kinds of girls who get dragged into the situation are just, I hate to use this kind of wording, but they're just easy prey for people who are just looking for all these things, for guys who are looking for all these things. And my thing is just, as much as there is evil in this world, try to put yourself, try to position yourself as in as safe of a position as possible. And I don't know, I feel like this can become a whole conversation in itself. So girls getting
we
into
can
peer
have
pressure,
one.
even guys.
Mm.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, next conversation maybe that
Peer pressure
girls.
next
Yeah, peer
episode.
pressure. Yeah, peer pressure and yeah, peer pressure for girls in specific. I have a huge problem with peer pressure for girls, just like I have a huge problem with peer pressure for guys. But that's actually very different, in very different circumstances. And peer pressure, nonetheless, it's a very powerful thing. But oh my god, we started with fucking addiction. We went into random topics, and we just end up at peer pressure. And we'll actually make another video about peer pressure, guys. I think next video will actually make it about peer pressure, and we'll try to make it as diplomatic as possible, because I have again very extreme views when it comes to this. So I don't know how my good friend here Sakhi would react. But
I
fine,
feel
that
like
makes
in a lot of episodes, I'll tell you, okay, we have less than 1 minute. What I have realized in the past from all these conversations that we've had is that when we look at your opinions, no, they might seem unconventional, but at the foundation, it makes sense. A lot of
mm,
these make sense, and they are actually not offensive. When you say
mine.
it like that, your opinions, they're not. When you say it's like, oh my god, what are you saying? But when you go to the depth of it, we understand that what your intentions, or what on what basis you're saying this. So I realize a lot of stuff is not actually as offensive as it seemed to be. And
As it
I
seems.
many episodes, I don't think we are disagreeing that much. Almost all of your views, except for gender roles, I do not agree with a lot of points that you talked about previously
Talked
about
about.
gender roles and relationships. But other things that we discussed, I think I pretty much agree with where your opinions are coming from. And yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah, when I purposefully state all of the opinions in a very extreme manner,
Mm.
because I mean, you can call me a kind of sadist for this, but I kind of it gives me joy when it comes when people just believe the most outrageous of things, and they actually think they're in the right for this. When I come along and I mention something not just against their views, but completely the other side of the spectrum, it's like, how can this guy say this? But then I cut that back to what I actually believe and what is actually backed by facts. And so they cannot refute facts, right? And I somehow try my best to tie my extreme start, tie the extreme form in which that I start, and where I actually finish, which is what I actually believe in, which can be quite uh, complicated for people to hear, but it actually gives me a lot of fun just seeing the reactions out of people when they completely get their values broken. especially the people who have their values backed just by watching a few YouTube videos and no analysis by their own. I love that kind of reaction from them, and this is why I just state the kind of opinions that I do in a very extreme way. But if you actually cut down the bullshit, I try my best to form all these opinions with just good faith in mind, right? And so, to the best of my ability. Okay, guys, we started with addiction, and then we
Yeah.
segued into a lot of things. Like, guys, just if you do have any other suggestions for the kind of videos that you or the kind of topics that you guys want us to talk about, do let us know in the comments, or do let us know personally any kind of topics for that matter that you guys want us to discuss. Just yeah, just do not hold back on these topics, for we really struggle for video ideas sometimes, and we really can use a little bit of ideas from you guys as well. And from this discussion, if you guys learned anything, I feel like we feel like we have done our job properly. But I do believe it was just most of us just ranting on about our entire experiences. But we purposefully did not get into the scientific part of it to not make it very redundant, as it really does get when you really get scientific in certain situations and certain things. And so yeah, like yeah, guys, like hopefully you guys learned something from this. Thank you guys for watching, and see ya.